In this walkthrough, I'm using AI podcast mode in Speech Actors. Podcast mode turns a script into a two-speaker conversation. It is made for back-and-forth audio, like a host and guest talking naturally. First, I'll switch to AI podcast mode. Instead of writing the whole conversation manually, I'll use AI script. I click AI script and describe what I want the podcast to be about. Create a short podcast conversation about how AI voices help creators make content faster. Now I click Generate. Speech Actors writes the podcast script as a two-speaker conversation. Each paragraph becomes a speaker turn, so the final audio feels more like a real conversation instead of one long narration. Now I click Use Script. The generated podcast script is added into the editor. Podcast mode automatically uses supported podcast voices and alternates the speakers, so the conversation has a host and guest flow. I can still edit the text before generating. If I want, I can shorten a line, change a question, add a new response, or adjust the flow of the conversation. Podcast mode is currently focused on natural two-speaker English podcast delivery. Now I'll click Generate Podcast. Speech Actors creates the podcast audio using the two-speaker script and the podcast voices. Short podcast scripts usually generate quickly. Longer conversations may take more time. But the app keeps checking until the audio is ready. Now the podcast audio is ready. It appears in the Audios panel. I can play it,
It's truly
rename
fascinating
it,
how
download
AI
it,
voices are
open
changing the way
saved script if available, reuse the script, add background music, merge it with other voiceovers, or delete it. That is podcast mode. Use AI script to create a two-speaker conversation, apply it to the editor, generate the podcast, and manage the finished audio from Audios.